Good morning, everybody. Keith Engel here for TGI Sports Talk Sunday, stream of consciousness. How is everybody today? This is my second opening. I actually started without going live here a minute ago. Oh, gosh. It was a better opening then. Welcome, everybody. It's NFL's opening weekend. We're excited about that. We had a big day of college football. We're going to get into all of that. We're going to get into a little bit of Major League Baseball. So we got a packed show, plus your topics on all of those subjects. Anything college football related. We're going to start with college football today. Go to the NFL, then go to Major League Baseball probably. I want to welcome everybody watching on TGI Sports Talk, watching on Northeast Streaming Sports, watching on Let's Talk Sports and Zodiac TV. And speaking of Let's Talk Sports, as always, please, guys, keep a thought and a prayer keep a thought and a prayer for my good friend Dan Harris over there in the UK, who is the heart that pumps Let's Talk Sports, and he's a good man, going through some struggles. As I have told you guys, he's back doing a few shows as he can. He and I did our Let's Talk New York Sports show, so you can check that out on Let's Talk Sport or Let's Talk New York Sports. We did Friday. You can check that out on TGI Sports Talk or Let's Talk Sports. And we still got some music going here. There we go. What else? Yeah, and thank you to all the groups that allow me to share this, obviously. Facebook's getting a little strict with me again. So we still had some struggles yesterday. My stepson has graciously given me his YouTube access, so I was able to get back on ESPN Plus and watch all the games that I wanted to watch, as I use them as my TV provider now and not Spectrum. Unbelievable. This is going on. Monday Night Football, guys. If you're a Buffalo or Miami fan, good luck if you're a Spectrum subscriber. So listen, we'll get into all of that. We got some good mornings here to get to. And we want to talk about your topics as well. CA, good morning. How are you? Hook 'em horns. Everything Texas. CA is everything Texas. Big win for Texas last night. We'll get into that as well. This is the kind of win that Steve Scarsazian has not had in his career anywhere, in my mind. And it's a statement win at Alabama. They haven't lost a non-conference game at home since 2007, 43 straight games. So good job by Texas. We'll talk about that a little bit. Big win for them. We get into the college. Good morning, Alec. How are you? When we get into college, we're going to talk about some of the stories around the league, and we'll talk about, the big wins, the big losses, and the close calls, and some other stuff. Good morning, Dave Guyette. Good to have you. Saw your picture at SPAC, I think, the other night. Hope you had fun the other day. Kenny Gifford. Good morning, Kenny. Good to have you with us. Kenny and I will get back on the golf course after Kenny's been laid up all summer with knee replacement, I believe, right? And we'll do some golfing next Saturday. And I think I might have a couple of bodies for us, Kenny. Alex says he's hopeful our pregame. He's hopeful on our pregame show today. Good. It takes a lot out at the end to do the shows, but he loves to do them, and it's his passion, and he's going to do them until he can't. So he's a good man. Keep your thoughts and prayers. And Alec, I know you were Alex over there in the UK, same as Dan actually. So Kenny Gifford, the Longhorns and the Sooners are already showing the SEC who's in charge. SEC's lost some big non-conference games. Florida State. Who else? Just had it yesterday. Texas. Had this somewhere. Had this up somewhere. Let me see if I still got it up here. Get over here. Come on. Can't get my mouse going. Crap. I had it somewhere. I don't know what I do with it now. Apparently it's gone. They've lost like 6 big non-conference games. Now, and again, I've said this before. This is why the SEC plays cupcakes in their non-schedule. They don't schedule good teams on the road, especially. Now, Alabama lost at home. Orioles for real, it seems. Orioles with 7 straight wins now. Orioles going one way, Rangers going the other. We'll get into the Major League Baseball talk a bit later. Not everything, but most, as far as Texas. Why wouldn't you believe in them? Oh, Kenny's been a big Oriole backer all year. You always got to watch these teams. Look at what the Rangers were doing. Rangers had the second best record in baseball for the longest time, and anybody can hit the skids at any point, man. Unless you're the Braves or the Dodgers. Let's look around college football a little bit before we do anything else. I want to go through the top 25 quickly, and I'm going to give you a list of some, and we can comment. Any comments, get up there. I'm going to talk about what I think were big wins and what were bad losses, and close calls. And then we've got a little other college news we talk about. So we'll get through that, and then we'll go some NFL and some Major League Baseball. Top 20 yesterday. Washington backs up its big win against Boise State last week with a 43-10 win over Tulsa. Not unexpected. Washington, again, might be the class of that Pac-12. And the Pac-12 is one of the big surprises so far. They have, I think, only one non-conference loss so far. Actually, maybe it's two. Oklahoma wins 28-11 over SMU. SMU gave them a game for a while here. SMU moving to the ACC, as we know, next year. Ole Miss, I bet Tulane yesterday, +7. Pratt was out. They played a really good football game, and were right in this. In fact, they were leading a good part of the game into the third quarter, and then even into the fourth quarter, they're in the game. They had a couple of bad plays. Dart played well for Mississippi. Kiffin goes for it on a big fourth down in the fourth quarter, up only at 7. They convert after a couple of penalties, I believe. Big penalty on them, by the way. Now, maybe the rules need to change a little bit. They had a motion play, but the play did not get stopped. Tulane stopped Mississippi on this play, 4th and inches. And by committing a penalty, Ole Miss got a break, and then they get the first down. I suppose, somebody heard the whistle, and they stopped playing on the Ole Miss side. That's why they got the penetration. But I didn't want to do it this way. I'm only in the American here. I don't know why. Notre Dame. Listen, Notre Dame, I saw Kenny put in our group chat yesterday that Hartman had struggled his first couple of series. Well, they scored 45 points yesterday. Hartman throws for 4 touchdowns again. This is the type of guy Notre Dame's been missing for a long time. Solid, consistent, and this Notre Dame team is a good team. This is not a cupcake game going into North Carolina State and beating them by 21 on the road. Nice victory. For Notre Dame, pulled away here in the fourth quarter as well. That's when you win games. Win and lose games in the fourth quarter. Big surprise. Big surprise. Miami at home. Miami has not had a win like this in years. Even when they had some good teams in the last 5-6 years, they have not won against a really good team. Really big 5 teams. Texas A&M is not a great team. They had moved into the top 25 before this loss. Jimbo Fisher, Marco Cristobal, both under the microscope after going 5-7 last year, both of them, I believe. This is a big victory for Miami. They trailed 17-7 in this game, and it was looking like more of the same. And Van Dyke played a great game. They went 48-33. Georgia trying to three-peat, 45-3 over Ball State. No big surprise there. Beck does go for 2 touchdowns, but he does throw an interception this game. Michigan, without Coach Harbaugh, again, beat UNLV. No big surprise. Big day for J.J. McCarthy. Texas, as we said, beats Oklahoma. Beats Alabama 34-24. Quinn Ewers, 349 and 3 touchdowns, played great. This game was low scoring. I bet the over in this game, 53. I at halftime, I thought I was dead. I think they only had what they have 19 points, I think. I'm thinking I'm done. And they exploded in the fourth quarter for 39 points. between them, 21 for Texas. Big win for Steve Scarsazian. I said I didn't think he'd make it to the SEC. Well, he just made a statement that he's on his way. First loss, as I said, in 43 games since 2007, non-conference games at home for Nick Saban. Now, I understand maybe some of those were cupcakes, but still, you beat Alabama, and Alabama's probably a little overrated at 3 or 4, whichever poll you're looking at. They'll probably drop. I don't think they'll drop out of the top 10. They might. This is a pretty decisive victory. We'll see. I think they'll still be in the top 10 next week. We'll see. Florida State, I think this is one of the winners, the big wins of the year, of the week. Again, Southern Miss, you say they should win. But coming off that big win against LSU, there's always a chance of a letdown. You guys put your comments up because I'll be back to get them as soon as I go through these top 25. Then we'll look at some of the other games. Coming back and winning big at home by 53. Big game for Florida State. I feel the same way about Duke, which we'll get to in a second. Ohio State rolls over Youngstown State as they should. McCord played a better game. Again, I got to see him against some better competition before I draw any conclusion. But he throws for 3 touchdowns yesterday and 258 yards. USC destroys a bad Stanford team, 56-10. Caleb Williams with 3 more touchdowns. I think he's got 12 already on the season. Early front runner for the Heisman. Penn State 63-7 over Delaware. No big surprise there. Watch out for Alar, that quarterback. He had 1 passing touchdown, but he runs the ball very well, and he is an exciting player for Penn State. And they also have the great running back Allen. So Penn State, I bashed you and Franklin for a long time. Maybe this is their year. I don't know. I already talked about Washington. Tennessee plays Austin Peay. Struggled with them for a while. It was only 13-6 at halftime. Ended up beating 30-3. Utah struggles with Baylor, who lost a big non-conference game to Texas State last week. They finally went out, outscoring Baylor by 14 in the fourth quarter to win this game and get to 2-0. Now, Utah's had problems getting into the playoff picture in past years because they got off to bad starts. They're 2-0. Oregon, again, this is a close call here. Oregon, 38-30 over Texas Tech. Texas Tech, a dark horse in a lot of people's mind. Very trendy pick in the Big 12 as a dark horse, and in the national race as a dark horse. They lose their second in a row. Losing the lead at home. They led this game 27-18. 27-18 going into fourth quarter, and they get outscored 20-3. You got to finish games, and they didn't do it. LSU rolls over Grambling, which we knew they would do to right their ship. Kansas State with a nice win at home over Troy. Troy's a sneaky good team. They win 42-13. Oregon State rolls over UC Davis 55-7. North Carolina struggles against Appalachian State. This game goes a couple of overtimes, I believe, 3 overtimes, I think. They end up winning the game 40-34. App State had a chance to win the game, and their quarterback Aguiar just missed a guy in a corner route towards the end zone, and they were that close to possibly tying it up again or even winning the game with the 2-point conversion. Oklahoma, we already talked about. Washington State. Washington State's really good. So my bets yesterday were Tulane over in the Texas-Oklahoma game and Washington State plus way too much, +7, I think. 6.5 or 7 it was at home against Wisconsin, who's okay, but Washington State's got a good team, guys. Washington State, Oregon State, very underrated in that Pac-10. And there's more news about them, too, filing suit against the Pac-12 to keep the other schools that have decided to leave from meeting and making any decisions that affect the future of these two teams. They want to be the only teams that can go now and govern the Pac-12, and also any monies that are left from TV contracts or what have you will get split with those two teams and nobody else. They're worried these other teams, they got a meeting, I think, scheduled next week which are trying to get a court order to stop because they're afraid that they will dissolve the league and to split the money amongst all the teams, whatever monies there is. Nobody knows exactly what we're talking about here money-wise. But it'll be interesting to see what happens here. The theory is once you declare you're leaving the conference, you can no longer participate in, other than games, any league business. And that's what they did. The precedent was set when USC and UCLA said they were leaving, and Colorado as well, earlier this year. They did not participate in any league meetings. So the rest of these schools, they now want to make sure nobody shows up and nobody has a vote to disband the league because they want to rebuild it. Or, at a minimum, be able to reap the rewards of whatever monies are left over. We talked about that. Duke, I said, rolls over Lafayette. Again, not a surprise, but again, a big victory in a place where you could look for a letdown because of the Clemson upset last week. Colorado, Nebraska. Colorado just was very good on defense. Shedeur Sanders was good again, 393 and 2 touchdowns. I'm not getting excited yet, guys. They should have beat this team. This is not a good football team. By the way, the guy we're going to be talking about in Colorado in another month's time or mid-season is going to be Travis Hunter, in my mind. Plays both ways. Has fouled. If you remember, he committed to Florida State when he was a sophomore in high school. Then Deion, who was his hero, he wanted to go to Florida State because that's where Deion went. When Deion got the job at Jackson State, he went there, and there was an article this week that he stated if he'd taken a job in Alaska, he would have gone there. And this kid's a great two-way player too. So I still think Colorado, they'll win next. I think they'll beat Colorado State next week. They'll get to 3-0. The hype will grow more and more and more, which is what Deion does, and it's good for the program. And when I say they will now come back to reality and they'll be 3-2 before September's out, they'll lose to Oregon and USC in my mind. It doesn't mean he's not doing a good job. And when I'm saying these things, temper your excitement just a little bit. I'm not knocking Deion Sanders, okay? Because 7 wins would be astronomically good. And lastly, Clemson bounces back with a 66-17 win over Charleston. Let me get some comments out of the way here, and I'll go through my. I know we got a lot up here. Where are we? Got a quick baseball comment. Orioles are for real, it seems. Yes, so that's why I already got that. UNC had its hands full. App State. App State, as I said, gives lots of teams trouble. They beat Michigan. This is before. Now they're an FBS 1 school. When they played it on the FBS, just the FBS level, the league just below it, they beat Michigan. They beat Miami last year or 2 years ago. This is a well-coached football team that's always ready to play. Always. Texas A&M overrated? They're always overrated because they've got talent and they can't produce on the field. This team and Jimbo Fisher, this program and Jimbo Fisher have a top 5 recruiting class every single year, but they can't put it together on the field. And I'm not saying that this is a big win for Miami, not because Texas A&M is, ranked high. They're only 23rd, and they'll be out obviously this year. This week, Miami might move in, but it's still a big victory because these are the types of games that Miami has lost over the last 6 or 7 years. They have not won these games; they've lost them. So that's why I think this is a big victory for them. Rice, excellent point. I would have got to that. I had that as one of my other big games outside of the top 25. Houston had a very impressive win over one of my favorite schools, stories anyway, Texas San Antonio last week. They lose to Rice yesterday. Nice game for them. We'll look through some of those other scores in a little bit. Michigan State, another story we're going to dive into, and we will. Mel Tucker is apparently being investigated for sexual harassment. sending inappropriate text messages and whatever else to a person of the female persuasion who was not welcoming those messages. And this is the one way, by the way, I said this about Jimbo Fisher last year, and I think I include Mel Tucker. A scandal like this might be the only way they get out of having to pay out, $75 million to get rid of Mel Tucker. So keep your eye on this story. It could get interesting. Firing up the laptop. CA. That is, it's looking like a really bad Stanford team. It's going to take some time to rebuild this program. This Traylor didn't go in, or the new coach didn't go in and do what Dion did. And I'm actually talking about this. I got another comment too. He didn't go in there and turn over, 80% of the roster, 90% of the roster, cut kids with scholarships and bring in a bunch of transfers. He did bring in transfers, but he didn't turn over 80 roster positions like Dion did in Colorado. So, which I think is a bad model. My fear is this: if Colorado really does well this year, every new coach is going to look to do the same thing. And it's not fair to the kids that were on that roster and recruited by the previous coach. Now, they can transfer out. I get it. But they might want to stay at the school, and their scholarships are taken away from them. No guarantees ever, guys. I did have this on my miscellaneous stuff. Coco Gauff does win the women's U.S. Open final yesterday. Becomes the second U.S. teenager ever to win. She's only 19 years old, ever to win the U.S. Open. The other is Serena Williams. So congrats to her. She is an up and coming star in the tennis world. We don't talk about tennis a lot here, but I like to check out the big tournaments. So good catch there, Kenny. Let me put a different banner up here for a second. Let's continue with week 2 here of the football for a little bit. Some of the other games of note. CA brought up, I think it was CA brought up Rice beating Houston in a big upset. Cincinnati with a very nice win. Scott Satterfield has won his first 2 games, I believe, at Cincinnati. He goes on the road and wins at Pittsburgh. That's a nice win for Cincinnati right there. Who else did I write down here? I guess I'm going to have to go to the scoreboard because I can't remember. We'll go through I'm not going to go through all the other scores, but we'll look through it real quick and look at some of the other games that were of note. Kansas the other night with a nice victory over Illinois, by the way. Gets off to a good start. They're last year's Heisman Trophy candidate till he got hurt. Jalen Daniels has a nice game. We talked about all these games. There was a couple other games I want to just mention real quick where you guys put some more comments up for me. Get out of the top 25. Wake Forest, congratulations to them and our favorite color analyst, Larry Sorensen. They beat Vanderbilt 36-20 at home. They're 2-0. Not a bad start. Army wins 57-0 yesterday. Good for them. Oh, it was Purdue goes on the road after a bad loss to Fresno State at home last week. Purdue goes on the road and beats the ACC team, Virginia Tech. Nice win there. Close call for Boston College with Holy Cross. Boston College, they're going to be in trouble. Their coach is going to be in trouble, Haley, because this team is just underproduced every year, and they should not be 3-point winners over Holy Cross. Virginia loses at home to James Madison. Not a horrible loss. James Madison's have played well since they came into FBS 1A. They're not bowl eligible, I don't think, yet this year, which I think is a joke, by the way, that these teams aren't bowl eligible the minute they come up. But the big story for them was that, where did I have it here? Hollis Let me bring up the box score so I can give it to you correctly. Mike Hollins, who was a survivor from the awful, tragic shooting that killed 3 Virginia players last year, he scored 2 touchdowns yesterday. So congrats to him. And I know it was a tough loss, but it is good to see him back in the field and producing the way he did yesterday. So that's our hats off to him, and I'm glad he's recovering well, and not physically and mentally as well. It's just got to be a tough ordeal for him to go through, survivor guilt and all this other stuff that could be happening. So, what else? Looking for some other interesting. Iowa beats Iowa State 20-13. Iowa State was a trendy pick for people getting 4.5 at home. I was close to betting that game, did not, thankfully. The interesting thing here is Iowa's 2-0. They're only averaging about 23 points a game. They need to average 25 for offensive coordinator coach Ferentz's son to keep his job. He needs to average 25 points a game. And so far, not so much. We talked about Mel Tucker in the hot water he may be in. Michigan State does win to go to 2-0, 45-14 over Richmond. Syracuse, we'll give a shout out to Syracuse, 48-7 over Western Michigan at home, 2-0. Congratulations to Dino Babers and his team. Schrader, their quarterback, who last year got hurt after their fast start. Remember, they got off to a 6-0 start last year. And he got hurt, and things went in the toilet. So good for them. UTSA rebounds, one of my favorite teams. I was looking for a different term, but we'll call them one of my favorite teams. Navy gets a win over Wagner, 24-0. What else we got interesting wise here? Wyoming with a second win in a row. Liberty wins 33-17 to go 2-0 under their new coach Chadwell, formerly from Coastal Carolina. I thought there was one more game that I thought was of interest. Pittsburgh, we talked about. Coastal Carolina, speaking of them, they win over Jacksonville State. UConn loses 35-14 to Georgia State to go to 0-2. The feel-good story at UConn could be, under Jim Mora, could be shrinking. UCF and Boise State. You go to Boise, you win in that blue field. You've done a good job. UCF wins this game 18-16 to go to 2-0 in non-league play. Houston, we talked about, and Rice with a great overtime win over Houston in this. This game must have gone. If I can do the math, 6-28. That must have gone 4 or 5 overtimes. South Florida wins 38-24 over Texas A&M. Florida rolls over McNeese State. Maryland struggles a bit with Charlotte, 38-0. Mississippi State, 31-24 over Arizona. One of the few out-of-conference wins that the SEC has managed against Power 5 teams. Rutgers, 2-0 with a 36-7 win over Temple. South Carolina rebounds and wins. UCLA wins at San Diego State. Not an easy place to play. San Diego State, a sneaky good team. Air Force, we'd like to give the shout out to the military academies, 13-3. Fresno State wins again. They're 2-0. Auburn goes out west. They're 2-0 over Hugh Freeze. They beat the Cal Bears yesterday, 14-10. Oklahoma State wins on the road at Arizona State, 27-15. And UAlbany goes to Hawaii and loses 30-21. There's one other game I thought I wanted to mention, but I don't see it here. So I'll get to some other comments and see what else we got. Dion didn't take any scholarships away. No, that's not true. I don't know if that's really... that could be accurate, but 40 scholarships go on their own. There's still 40 more that turned over. So you're not going to tell me he didn't take anybody's scholarship away. I don't buy it for a minute. I mean, that could be being what's reported, and I'm not going to say you've read something that is incorrect. I don't buy it. I don't buy that 40 just left without any conversation. Now, I know a lot of kids just transfer out, but a lot of kids would want to play for Deion Sanders and you get a chance because he wants to bring his people in. This isn't pro football, guys. You know, I mean, that's what it's turned into. I mean, again, it's money, and again, with the transfer portal in the NAL, you're a free agent every year, and it's ridiculous. Coaches aren't held accountable. And again, how can I get on the kids for move when the coaches aren't accountable? The programs aren't accountable. They just do what they want. They change conferences and leave teams behind. I feel the way he did is the best way. Why not be upfront and tell them the truth? I don't know. Again, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying I don't like it. That's all. Is it a great way to turn? Would that be great if every college coach was going in and turning over 80% of his roster? Remember, some of these kids are there to get an education as well. And if you get your scholarship taken away, and again, you're going to tell me that 40 walked away on their own. Okay. Where'd the other 80 go? I just don't think it's good for college football. But there's a lot of stuff that's going on. It's not good for college football. So, did anyone see the offensive line pick up the fumble and then throw a TD? I did not. What game was that in, Kenny? Was that in the Colorado game? I had that on the computer, and I had another game on the bigger screen outside, and I didn't watch a ton of that back and forth. Play-by-play, I should say. Go Astros. We'll get into them. A couple other stories in college football before we move on. A couple big stories, actually. We talked about Mel Tucker being the subject of a sexual harassment suit. Brenda Tracy, she's a prominent sexual assault prevention advocate, by the way. Brilliant, Mel. If you're going to sexually harass somebody, why not be her? Claims Mel Tucker sent her gifts, asked if she would date him if he wasn't married, and pleasured himself while talking to her during a phone call without her consent. The apocalypse is upon us. Talked about Cam Ewers. We talked about, the Pac-12 news is not a small item, by the way. I feel like I'm jumping again, my screen. It's really ticking me off. This could be potentially worth tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, depending on how much is left over and not been paid out to teams in TV contracts. This will end up in the courts. And it's because they don't want this league disbanded, Oregon State and Washington State. They don't want this league disbanded. They want to be able to rebuild it if that's what they choose to do. They want all their options on the table. Plus, they want the financial rewards of sticking it out and these teams leaving them behind. We'll get back to your comments in just a second. Buffalo's imposed their will. Deion Sanders again, very by the way, watch the comment. He said dominate he said dominate about 6 times in 2 sentences. Anyway, he said we didn't want to just win, we wanted to dominate. The first half we weren't dominant, the second half we got it together and began to dominate, and we really wanted to impose our will. He tried to say dominate a couple more times, and I think he stopped himself and said something different. Deion's a great coach. Deion's a great coach. Not sure about the X's and O's. He's a smart guy, but he's a motivator and he's a marketeer, right? He gets interest in the program, which is huge because now you got money coming in from boosters and everything else, which is going to help bring kids to your program. I argue with the Mad New Yorker a lot of times. He will get kids. If he gets kids in the NFL, that will get kids there, but that's not his main job, by the way, because 99%, 95% of these kids are not going to the NFL. They need to understand and need to get an education, and he needs to make sure he focuses on that as well. And I don't know that he isn't. He's strict with his players as well. He doesn't let them just do what he wants. He bunched his own kid during a championship game last year. Scholarships taken away, boo-hoo, grow up. Come on, Kenny. That's not fair. Some of these kids are actually there to get an education, and the scholarship they got was the only way they can get it. That is an unfair statement to say. You're because you're looking at just the top half of the players in NCAA football. And they're good enough that they can go anywhere and play and get money and get paid. How about the kids at the bottom of the rung who aren't playing a lot, who don't have NIL money and are there to get an education, and the scholarship is the only way to do it? I don't think that's a fair statement. These, again, grow up. These kids fought hard to get a scholarship. If it gets taken away, that's a big deal. If they're there to get an education. If it's a top, 10, 15, 20%, whatever you want to say, and those kids are just there not going to school and looking for the next step, well, then, yeah, boo-hoo. That's not the kids I'm talking about. Think about all the kids that don't get scholarships and pay for themselves. It's a lot. That's what these other kids would end up having to do if they could. Just saying. Are you allowed to support more than one college team? I'm okay with that. I'm a Miami. I know I have a lot of rules about supporting teams, but in college, I guess you could support more than one. Because I have an allegiance to Miami because of family, and I like to see them do well. But I root for good stories, right? I also like Notre Dame. I like Notre Dame to do well because college football is better when Notre Dame's good. I root for a lot of the teams that I feel make the college game better. I want them to do well. I may not root for them in individual games, and often my allegiances are where my money is. But don't worry. You're going to lose your money on a golf course next week. You can't jump too high. I can't jump at all. Here's my vertical leap. That's my vertical leap right there these days. Colorado Messiah. Is that what you're trying to say? Look, Deion's a great coach. I'm not taking anything away from Deion. This is his way of doing it. I just hope it doesn't become a trend. That's all. It will create even a bigger mess. College football will even be a bigger mess than it is today if we have this happen in 10, 20 programs a year. And again, not everybody be able to do it the way Deion can do it. I get that too. And I'm not rooting against Deion. I like Deion. Listen, when he came, I've said it many times. When he went to Jackson State, I thought it was a joke. It would be a clown show, and he turned out to be a really good football coach. He's a great motivator of kids. He's a disciplinarian as well, which I did not think would be the case. So I like what he's doing. I mean, if he wins 6 games, here's the problem. What's going to happen, because we know how sports are. We know how sports fans are. They're going to go 3-0. Hype's going to be like crazy. They're going to finish 6-6, and people are going to think it's a bad season because they started 3-0. It's not a bad season, because before the season started, if you said you'd be 6-6 and bowl eligible, you would have said, "Great job, Deion." Now they're going to be, if they start 3-0 and they finish, 3-6 the last 9 games, people are going to say, just a flash in the pan, because fans are fickle. We know that. Noel's on course to play the Bulldogs. Michigan plays Texas. I'm guessing that's your playoff expectations. I haven't lost any of my picks yet. Florida State and Oklahoma are my 2 outsiders. Both 2-0. Florida State much more impressive than Oklahoma, of course. Alex, support any team and more than one. See, I have a problem in professional sports when you do that. I can't support. There might be certain players that used to play for my team that I'll support, certain coaches. I don't actively root for them. I'm not a fan. You won't see me with more than one NFL hat. In fact, I won't have more than one college hat. I did have an Air Force hat once. Keep changing the rules, right? Is that me? Colorado mess Lyman picks up. Oh, there you go. I did not see that in that Colorado game. By the way, I still think, and I think Nebraska got away from this way too early while the game was still in hand. They should have kept running the football because I think Colorado's susceptible to the run, which is why I think they'll really struggle against Oregon. They might even struggle against Colorado State next week. That game, I'm not sure where that game is. We'll talk about it more Wednesday. Oh, no college football huddle this Wednesday. I don't know when. We're going to try to get it in some point. I've got work obligations every night in the office, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and obligations after hours every night. So I'm either going to do one very late or I'm going to record one. I don't like to record one because I like the back and forth with you guys. So we'll see what we do. Plus, guys that aren't here, there are certainly guys that do not come to the Sunday Stream of Consciousness that come to the college football huddle. We'll figure out something out. Colorado this year's TCU. They would be. It'd be bigger hype than TCU was. I can tell you that if Deion were there. So Kenny is picking officially. I'm going to say Kenny is picking. I think you said it wrong again. I think Tennessee, or I'm sorry, Kenny is Tennessee. I think Kenny is officially taking Colorado to get to the playoff this year and get killed in the final by 60 points. Are you trying to say Messiah? I can't speak. You can't write. CA. Yep. After yesterday evening, with each team schedule the rest of the way, the Red River Classic will most likely be for the playoff. Well, that'd be interesting. I did say I picked Oklahoma. Finally, I did say I said all summer either Oklahoma or Texas would win the Big 12 on the way out the door, and I guess by me picking Oklahoma to get to the playoff, I have officially picked them to win. Not sure how good the league is this year outside of them, to be honest with you. We'll see. Let's move on. We can come back to some college football. Let me see if there's any other stories here. I thought there was one more story I wanted to talk about. We talked about Hollins. We went through that. Again, the big wins yesterday. Miami, Notre Dame, I thought was a big win. Washington State, huge win. Colorado with a big win for them. Kansas, I thought was a big win. Can't read that one. Florida State and Duke, both. Kansas State with a nice win. Clemson. Northwestern wins yesterday. I think that's a big win for them. It might be their only win of the year. Bad losses yesterday. I'm going to say Tulane. It's a bad loss, but they were about their quarterback, so they played a good game. Maybe not. Baylor, bad loss. You're winning that game in the fourth quarter. You got to win. You got to finish games. Nebraska. You got to show up. That conference is just never coming back. I shouldn't say that conference. That program just seems like it's never going to come back. Same problems, different coach. Houston with a bad loss. Alabama, obviously, it's a bad loss, but it doesn't kill their national championship hopes, by the way. If this is a one-loss team and they win the SEC, they're going to the playoff. Even a two-loss Alabama team, if they win the SEC championship, will probably be in the playoff. That's not the case for Texas or Oklahoma, for that matter. And Virginia, I don't know if that's a bad loss. Tough year. I can't get on them. Close calls for North Carolina, Utah, Oregon, and BC, as we talked about before. Any other stories I wanted to chat about here? Bad injury, by the way, in that Miami Texas A&M game. Cameron Kitchens was hospitalized after a concussion. He was on the field for a long, long time. I'm trying to read his. He said he's heading to the after the game. Football is for viewing at time. We aren't sure. I don't have an update on Kitchens today. They did take him to the hospital. And he's one of the important players, and he's Van Dyke, the quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke, said he's the heart and soul of this program. So prayers out to Kitchens, and hopefully he'll be okay. It's always tough to watch that. It's a physical game, and these guys know the dangers, right? But Purdue last in nearly 6-hour delay. They had some delays. Notre Dame and North Carolina had some big delays. Purdue and Virginia Tech, bad storms through the Mideast. 6-hour delay in that Purdue Virginia Tech game. That might be all I have for college football right now, depending on what you guys have. Wait, what happened? What are you talking about, Tanner? Welcome, Tanner. Good to have you with us. Tanner from Let's Talk Sports, a very important cog over there. Along with Johnny Cruz and Nick Botkins and the whole other crew. I can't mention everybody's name, but very important lieutenants for Dan Harris, as we talked about. And please, if you weren't with me at the top of the show, always keep Dan Harris in your thoughts and prayers. He's a really good man, and I have a lot of fun doing shows with Dan. And bad things happen to good people. So keep him in your thoughts and prayers. I don't know what. I'm not sure what happened is, Tanner. What do we got here? Happy game day, Keith. Let's keep this under. Let's keep this on the under today for the Pats-Eagles game. Under? You know, it's funny. I think I told you and I think I got a surprise. Probably the best bet for the Patriots to win the game if it goes under and limit the possessions for the Eagles and Hurts. We're going to switch to the NFL right now, by the way, since Tanner made that transition for me. Where are we? Yep, we're here somewhere. I know it's here somewhere. I had it with me. Week 1. Patriots. Some weirdness going on in Patriots camp too, by the way, today. We'll talk about that for a second too. Probably the best chance for them to win is to keep the score low, as I said. I do think they'll lose the game. I'd like to see them keep it close. I think it might be more of a shootout, and I know Tanner will like to hear this. And I think the guys were surprised when I predicted this score the other night on the AFC East show, which they allowed me to appear on. I picked a 35-31 victory for the Eagles. I do think the Patriots may have the ball late in this game with a chance to win. Week 1, that's the best chance for the Patriots. Everybody's playing sloppy football because we don't have a real training camp and exhibition games that are played with real players. We're out there just trying not to get hurt and get our reps in. You can only have 10 practices with pads. So we get crappy football throughout September. At least it's football. So this game could be sloppy. And if the Patriots limit turnovers, play good special teams, and protect the quarterback, they'll have a chance. If they don't, it could get ugly. Tom Brady will be honored in this game at halftime. I'm sure when Bill Belichick is in the locker room and not there on the podium with Brady, that'll stir up all kinds of controversy. But there's a game going on. The coach needs to coach. They should have done the ceremony before the game. I don't understand why they're doing it at halftime. In any event, I wouldn't be surprised to see Brady's number retired today. They have not come out and said that will happen, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it happen. And some really weird stuff. They signed Matt Corral. They put Bailey Zappi. They released Zappi and Cunningham. They re-signed him to the practice squad. Signed Matt Corral, who had been listed as the backup quarterback all week. Always had my doubts that would be the case. I thought Bailey Zappi would get elevated to the 53-man roster before the weekend. Well, it did happen, but because Matt Corral disappeared, hadn't showed up for workouts in 2 days. The word is he has some mental health issues. He's struggling with that a little bit. And again, that's not something I want to make light of. I hope the kid gets the help that he needs, whatever he's going through. I hope he gets the help that he needs. But again, hopefully this is not a distraction for the team. He hasn't been there that long. So we'll see how that goes. Got some comments here before I move on. Colorado Mesa versus San Diego Division II. What do you? I'm very lost, Kenny. Did you start early today? Burrow gets a good point, Drew. A big story in the NFL. Where am I here? Go to NFL home. Joe Burrow does sign the biggest contract in NFL history. I was kind of looking for it here quickly. I can't find the number. Let me find Joe Burrow. Just so we can give you guys a number. And this is, the quarterbacks get the money, right? I mean, this is the deal. The running backs don't get the money. The quarterbacks do. He is now the highest paid player, as he has now got a contract of 5 years, $275 million, including more than $219 million guaranteed. The quarterbacks get paid, guys. The running backs don't. This is why Taylor had his issues in Indianapolis. This is why Saquon Barkley had his issues in New York. But, the NFL, by the way, he's got a contract, show up and play. Jones in Kansas City, Taylor. And if you were franchise and you don't like it, well, then you still have an obligation to play, because that's the agreement that your Players Association worked out with the league. Do away with the franchise tag if you think that's the case, and you should be able to be a free agent when your contract expires. Tell your Players Union, which has really gotten pretty weak, by the way, the NFL Players Association. Lots of big injuries this week. Cup's out, IR, at least 6 weeks. He's out, I think, now. Saw a couple other guys were out too. Who else was out? I saw some other injuries. I thought Jefferson, by the way, did not get a contract extension signed. Evans didn't get a contract extension signed. Jefferson for the Vikings, probably not going to get traded. I wouldn't be shocked to see Mike Evans get traded during the season. And Kansas City has been talked about a lot as a landing spot for Mike Evans. I don't see Jefferson getting traded, at least not during the season. He'll get paid. The wide receivers almost always get paid too. And that will cycle through. Once the game changes again and the powers that be don't think again that the running backs have more value, they feel like they can plug and play. I can find 2 more guys like you, 10 more guys like you. I don't think that's the case for all of them. I think Saquon Barkley's special. I think McCaffrey's special. But they're probably not wrong based on what we've seen, that most of these guys can be replaced. But by the way, you can't say that, not pay them, and then when you want to trade them, do what Robert Irsay did, Jim Irsay did. I forget how old I am. Jim Irsay did, and then try to get value like somebody who would get paid like Taylor wanted to get paid. You can't have it both ways. Listen, if it's 20-14, if it's in the 20s, if it's in the teens, the Patriots got a chance. If it gets to be a shootout, I don't think they do. I do think there'll be some points scored today because I don't think the defenses are going to be as sharp as you think. I think Mac Jones will get protected better than you think. I think the excitement from the Brady stuff going on will carry over to the team for a bit. That crowd will be just really into the game, and I think that will help the Patriots at the outset. But as I said, if they take care of the football, don't get stupid penalties, all things that hurt them last year, protect the quarterback, which isn't rocket scientist, this is how you win, and play well in special teams, all things they did poorly last year. If they do those things, they could win this game. If they really fail on two of those four things, this could get ugly. But the Eagles, they're going to be working to rust off too. This is the best time to get them. I'd rather play the Eagles in week 1 than week 10. New York governor's trying to get Spectrum to pay money to the viewers. There already are refunding some people that have called $15, Kenny, before the governor even got involved. But again, I shouldn't say this. The business I work for does the same kind of thing. But Spectrum makes it very hard. You can't just go online and cancel your subscription or go on and ask for a refund. You got to sit and wait on a phone call. I called the other day. The wait was going to be an hour and a half. Ridiculous. And by the way, I will say this one more time about this Disney thing. Here's what really pisses me off. My phone's upstairs getting charged, so I got to leave right after the show to go watch football. Disney, one of the things Disney is doing is they're trying to squeeze out the TV providers like Spectrum. You can get mad at Spectrum all you want. This isn't necessarily a Spectrum issue. They could pay it, but you're going to pay more. Just to be clear. That's okay. If you're willing to pay more, and I am, fine. But don't get mad at Spectrum unless you're willing to pay more money. And the people who don't watch sports have got to pay it as well. And TV providers don't necessarily like passing that along. And I don't think people really get this. The problem here, in my mind, is really Disney. What Disney wants to do is squeeze out the TV providers like Spectrum, like Hulu. Actually, they have a relationship with Hulu, so that may not be the case. But they want to sell directly to the consumer, me, you, which is fine with me. I don't care who I pay. But I already paid Disney/ESPN for the ESPN Plus, and you don't give me what I pay for, $6.99 a month. It might have gone up. I don't even know. I got to check my credit card. You still don't give me what I want. I'm paying you directly. Well, now I've got access again because of my stepson getting YouTube TV for the football season. And so I just tell him that's my TV provider. Obligatory horns down post. Glad to see Bama go down, but I still hate Texas. We all know that, and welcome Alan to the show. Alan again from LTS Sports and one of our early contributors and still does. Again, I picked either Texas or Oklahoma. And Alan, I think you've heard me, I hope, either this or the college football show or at some point. I picked your Sooners to be in the national championship playoff. Oh, it's Sunday, and I start at the break of dawn. I knew that. Good thing the sun's coming up later. I start too, but I think we're starting different things. Oh, Alec, come on. They're not going 0-5. There's no way this team's going 0-5. And again, I can see why you would say that. I shouldn't get. They're going to beat the Dolphins. They're going to beat the Cowboys. Sorry, Alan. And they're going to beat the Saints. And and here's the thing too. I'm not getting excited. If this team is 2-4 after 6 weeks, I'm not getting excited. I've seen this team 2-4 plenty of times. They're 2-4 2 years ago and made the playoffs. They're 2-5. They got one of the toughest schedules in football. The whole AFC East has got a tough schedule. But you got to play the teams that are on your schedule. And I'm telling you, this team will be better than you think. I mean, that's not, and if you've watched me, there's been plenty of times I've picked my teams not to do well. 3 years ago, I said the Patriots wouldn't do well. Last year, I should have done it this year. I picked the Yankees to finish out of the playoffs. So I'm not a 100% homer. I don't pick my team. Yeah, when I go into pick'em leagues or whatever, I pick my team every time because I'm never rooting against my team. But I will always give you an honest assessment. Always. This team was a couple of plays away from being in the playoffs last year. Probably 2 plays away from being 10-7. 3 plays away from being 11-6. And this was not a good football team. They did not play that well, but they did not. Most of the time, they put themselves in position to win and then made bad penalties, bad turnovers, bad special team play, bad this. They should have beat Buffalo the last week of the season and made the playoffs. And they would have if they got 2 freaking long kickoff returns. This team will be better than you think. The defense is, even without the leadership and play of Devin McCourty, this team is better on defense this year than they were last year. And they're a good team. They're bend, but they don't break defense. The offense, you can't tell me having a real offensive coordinator who knows what he's doing, like Bill O'Brien, was not worth a couple of wins. Now, they may lose today. I think they'll beat the Dolphins at home next week. The Jets, I got to see the Jets play a couple times. On the AFC show, as Tanner knows, I picked the Jets to get to the Super Bowl. So I'm not a homer. I don't know if my team will win a playoff game. I do have them getting into the playoffs. I think the Jets, who I cannot stand, I want them to be a train wreck. But you have to look at these things objectively, or try to. Too many guys on here are just 100% homers. And I'm not saying you are, Alec, or anybody else necessarily. I watch a lot of stuff, not so much the LTS guys. But there's a lot of guys who do this who are just 100% homers, and I'm not. I'll find a way. I don't like to predict my team to lose. Today, I think they'll lose, but I think they'll keep it in the game. There's no moral victories in the NFL, but, a loss to the Eagles is not the worst thing. It's not a conference game. Just like Kansas City's loss the other night, why get all concerned about it? At the end of the year, it's not likely to mean a thing. They're not ready to play. There's not enough training camp. It's a non-conference game. It probably won't matter even a lick at the end of the year. But, I can see why you'd think that, but I'm telling you right now, this team will be better than what the over-under was like 6.5 for wins. I should have bet $1 million on it. God, my wife would kill me. I do have the Patriots at about plus 6,500 to win the Super Bowl, though. $55 million per year. We've come a long way from when Nolan was the first $1 million professional athlete. We sure have. We sure have. I've read a lot of books recently because I like to read about sports in the 70s. In the 70s, guys were still getting jobs in the offseason, baseball and the NFL. They're doing the Brady presentation at halftime to keep him out of the locker room. Put him in the locker room. If we're going to have a quarterback controversy in New England, I prefer it be Brady and Mac Jones. Oh, God. What do you got here, Tanner? I don't know, man. Yankees had Jeter, Rivera, etc., and that didn't help them. Well, again, Yankees are out of it. By the way, and we'll get to the Yankees in a little bit. 30 years, they have not had a team that went under 500, and it's getting close. It's getting rough. They're 70-72. I think the excitement would have helped them a little bit more if it was before the game, actually. Spectrum sucks. They do. I got to tell you, my internet connection, I pay for 500 and it shows 500, but I've still got things that I'm buffering all the time. I buffer sometimes on this freaking broadcast. Shouldn't buffer at all. Not with the speed of the internet I pay for. But I'm not blaming them for this whole Disney thing. I'm just not. If you read deep enough into this, you'll understand this isn't a Spectrum issue. This is a Disney issue. And there's a very good chance you're never going to see ESPN back on Spectrum. If Disney sticks to its guns, they want to sell directly to you, which I do, and they still don't give me what I pay for, so it doesn't matter. I don't know. I have not looked into it. My problem is my September is so freaking. It's going to have to be. I think we found a game. Let me go back and look real quick here if I can find Army. Crap. Hold on here a second. And quite frankly, I've had so much going on after, Rick talked about, getting off the schneid here and actually going. I've not been able to follow up on it. I've just had too much going on with work and trying to keep this show afloat. So September, I'm totally out of the picture here through at least 10-14. And then I can't go like the 28th or the 21st. I don't know which one. They're on the road anyway at LSU. I think the game I had talked about, Kenny, was in November. They got Air Force, 11-4 Air Force at 2:30 p.m. Or Coastal Carolina on the 18th. So we got to get together and figure that out. Those are the two games. We can go to Holy Cross, I guess, but I prefer to go to one of those two games. So let's get with Rick and figure that out. We'll look at getting the tickets. But they already made a contract and not living up to their end. I don't know where we're talking about. Are we back to who are we talking about now? Are we talking about players or are we on the TV? I don't know where we are. Got a lot of comments today. You guys are awesome. Sun, I also use them. I like my team's lineup, but good luck, Nick, if you're watching the show. Fantasy football for TGI Sports Talk kicks off today as well. Refreshing to start this fantasy football season without any players that are game time decisions. Oh, I hate that, right? I haven't even looked at my lineup yet. 100% homers are the worst. This is awkward enough considering my team. Listen, you get to be a big homer because you got the best team in football. KC game was interesting. Lions might be for real this season. I wasn't terribly impressed with their offense. I mean, if Tony puts that ball away and it's not intercepted, we're talking about a Chiefs victory probably. Now, again, you can't predict everything that would happen after that. I get that. But again, I don't get overly excited about week one results. I will if my team wins because they're going to win a game that I didn't expect to win. But the loss for Kansas City, it's a big win for Detroit. I think this is a bigger win for Detroit than it is a loss for the Chiefs. The Chiefs, again, their Chiefs are going to go 13-4 rather, whatever, 12-5, something. And this will be a non-conference loss, so it doesn't hurt them in any tiebreakers. They'll be fine. Oh, serious question. Where did the art of sliding go? Oh, my God. Are we talking about, now I don't know if we're talking about baseball or football, but it's ridiculous in both most of the time. Stanton can't slide at all. If it's baseball, why do they weigh the rest of the fundamentals, Kenny? We don't teach it. Get me off the NFL for a second. We are going back to the NFL real quick, guys. I'm gonna go through the game schedule. There are a bunch of guys out hurt, as we talked about. I started to talk about Cup being a big one. But as far as, if you're talking about baseball, again, it's part of the overall decline in the game and the fundamentals of the game. That's why it's not even a game I grew up watching. It's a different game. It's a video game. That's what they want. Hit the ball as hard as you can, stand at home plate, see where it lands, start running, or don't run, either way. But the fundamentals of the game, taking guys out second base. First of all, you can't take guys out second base because the league will say you almost hurt somebody. We can't have guys get hurt. God forbid there should be any physical contact in baseball. And if you're talking about football, then probably a totally different thing. Yeah. All right, so you are talking about baseball. Absolutely. Hook slide, pop-up slide, head first slide. Today, they don't know. Fun. Then they get hurt. And then they wonder why guys get hurt. You don't teach them how to do the things. They slide. How many times you watch guys now slide into the base and they don't start sliding until they're about this far away. And then they jam an ankle. But you guys just keep on looking at the numbers and judging players by WAR and everything else. And don't teach them fundamentals of the game. And we'll keep getting this crap that we have to watch game after game. I'm almost going Kenny's way. Brutal what they've done to the game that I grew up loving. And if it doesn't come across by now, 3.5 years after, 3+ years after doing this, it's never going to come across to you guys because they ruined almost the game that I love. There's a few teams that play the game the right way. Sometimes, not all the time. Frustrating. If you can't tell, who else is out? Kittle is expected to play today. By the way, Rashad Stevenson going back to the Patriots. He's questionable, but he had a full practice on Friday. He'll probably play. Broncos, Judy is expected to be out versus the Raiders. Ertz and Brown for the who are they playing for? The Cardinals, Ertz and Brown are expected to play. I don't know who's playing quarterback for that team. I was going to talk about we'll talk about the new quarterbacks. We'll get to baseball around the top of the hour, maybe. I'm going to do my picks. Guys, if you're not in the fantasy or the, let me see if I can get to it real quick and I'll put the thing in. You want to get in the survivor pool, all you got to do is pick a loser week 1 and you're out. Let me go. I want to get this in here because I was going to do this earlier. I should have set it up. My bad. So we got a survivor pool. There's only 7 people in it, so it's not going to be a lot of, going to be a small competition. But all you got to do is pick one game every week, and you can only pick a team once. So get in. Here we go. Let me get in here. Invite more friends. Copy link. You're going to see several posts come up in here, guys, and I hope maybe you will consider getting in the survivor pool. Got 7 entries so far. You lose once, you're out. Why is my, I don't get it. I don't get it. Why am I having so much trouble with my feed again? I'm plugged directly in. Speed test is like 600. Ugh, who else is out today? We talked about this sign. I think Evans might get traded during the season, by the way. I got a couple things I want to chat about. I'm going to go through the games, pick the games with a spread. And I'm going to also, did I get to all the comments before I put that in there? Yeah, I did. Then I'm going to look at, there's new quarterbacks all over the league, and I'll count some that did play last year. But since we started last season, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 quarterbacks, new quarterbacks with different, either brand new or with different teams, or they didn't start the season last year. We're going to take a look at all of them and see where they kind of rate. But I want to go through right now and do the schedule. Let's go through the schedule, shall we? Eagles and Patriots, 3.5 is the line on this game. I'm going to have to take the Eagles, unfortunately. I think it will be a high-scoring game, 35-31. I know Tanner doesn't want to hear that, but that's just me. Atlanta, 3.5 over the Panthers. I think the Panthers are going to be bad. I'm going to take lay the 3.5 with the Falcons. 2 iffy quarterbacks here. We'll talk about this. Again, new quarterbacks in both situations since the start of last season, Ritter and Bryce Young. The Bengals and the Browns. Cincinnati's 2.5 favorite on the road. I'm never going to root for the Browns. Not as long as that. I don't even have a word for him. Is playing quarterback for this team. And we're going to find out. He's one of the quarterbacks on the list. He did not start the season last year, so he's on my list. The Bengals, I'll pick to win this game, -2. Jaguars at the Colts. Jaguars, 4.5 on the road. This is an interesting pick. Again, the Colts, one of those teams with a new quarterback, Anthony Richardson. I don't know what to expect from him. They did reach for him. He's an ultra-talented athlete. How good a quarterback he's going to be in the NFL remains to be seen. For now, I'm going to have to take the Jaguars and lay the 4.5. Buccaneers at the Vikings. Minnesota, 5-point favorite. Buccaneers with a new quarterback in Baker Mayfield. Minnesota's a 5-point favorite. I will take the Vikings at home here. The Saints are a 3-point favorite over the Titans. Saints, another team with a new quarterback in Derek Carr. Not a big fan of the Titans and Tannehill. Not a big fan of Derek Carr. Somebody's got to win this NFC South. Saints are as good a candidate as anybody. I think I like the Falcons, but Saints, I don't know who I said I liked in this division. Tampa Bay, I think I like. Saints win this game and cover the spread. 49ers at the Steelers. I'm going to go upset alert here. Early season, on the road. Brock Purdy back, another new quarterback. And actually, since the start of last year, 2 new quarterbacks, and Purdy and Pickett. I'm going to take Pickett. I think Pickett steps up a little bit. I think the Steelers are going to be better this year. And I'm going to pick the Steelers +2 at home. Love home dogs. Cardinals, who are going to be just awful, are on the road against the Commanders. Washington's a 7-point favorite. As bad as the Cardinals are, Sam Howell's a new quarterback in Washington. If he's good, they could be good. If he's bad, they won't cover this spread, and you could see an upset. But I will take Washington here. The Texans go to the Ravens. It's a 9.5-point spread for Baltimore. I do think the Texans will be better this year. I think they'll probably be better than Carolina. But I don't think they compete in this game. I'll take Baltimore minus the points. The Bears, my sneaky good team, picked them to win the Central. Well, not the Central, the North. Showing my age again. Bears are a 1-point favorite here. Again, a new quarterback in this game, and Jordan Love. I like the Bears minus the 1 here. The Broncos and the Raiders, -3.5. Not a big Jimmy G fan. Jacobs was a holdout. Who knows, how ready he is to play in a game. I think Russell Wilson will be the comeback player of the year in the NFL this year. And I like the Broncos laying the 3.5 here. At 4:30, we got some great games at 4:25, by the way. Including the Patriots and Eagles, which I've already picked. The Dolphins and the Chargers. At the Chargers, LA's 3. LA's loaded. Miami's loaded. I like the Chargers here. The Chargers, I don't like either coach, to be honest with you. But Staley, if he stays out of his own way and gets out of his team's way, I like the Chargers here, minus the 3. The Rams at the Seahawks. Seahawks, one of the best bets today, minus 5. Rams, Stafford's supposedly healthy, or as healthy he's going to be. But this team, the running game is going to be rough. The line play is going to be rough. Cooper Kupp's out for an extended period. The Rams are going to be bad. And I like the Seahawks, as I said. They are my Super Bowl winner over the Jets. No chalk here, guys. Cowboys and Giants on Sunday night, excuse me. The Giants plus 3.5 at home. That's a gift. I'm sorry. The Giants, you Giant fans, Mad New Yorker, I'm talking to you. You're going to find out this team was not, and I have no skin in this game. I do not like the Giants. I hate the Giants worse than I hate the Jets for obvious reasons. But the Giants are going to be okay. They're going to win this game outright. So I'll take the 3.5 at home. And on Monday night, the game that people will be screaming and yelling about all over because they couldn't watch it. By the way, guys, if you can't watch it, I watched a lot of football yesterday. I watched the Clemson Duke game on ESPN, all on free YouTube. If you go to YouTube and look for Bills Jets live, you're going to get somebody sharing the feed illegally. But you can watch it until it gets blocked. Then you go look for another feed, and you can continue watching. It can be a pain, but if you have no other options, that might be a good option for you. Anyway, the Buffalo's favored by 2.5 here on the road at the Jets. Unbelievable that is even close to the spread. This Jet team is loaded. Bills have questions everywhere. I like the Bills to finish second. No, I like the Bills to finish third, actually, in this division. I think tied with the Patriots and losing a tiebreaker with the Patriots. The running game is a question mark. I like Cook, but the line has got to be much better than it's been. The team doesn't want Josh Allen running around, putting himself at risk, but that's his game. How do you stop him? Diggs is a problem potentially, as far as team camaraderie, he may be a problem. And the Jets have everything going for them. They're healthy. They had a championship caliber defense before the year started, and they're only going to be better. You got Quentin Williams is a monster on the line. Sauce Gardner, maybe the best quarterback in football already, and going to get better this year. Rodgers got weapons all over the field. Him and Garrett Wilson are going to be a tremendous combination. He's got Lazard. He's got Randall Cobb. He's got good running backs. If one of my running backs, now I forgot his name. If Bryce Hall is healthy, Breece Hall is healthy. And depending on the game shape that Dalvin Cook is in, this team's underdogs at home. Give me the Jets all day long. See what kind of comments we got here. Alex in. I think you were in, weren't you, Alex? See how many we got right now. See if anybody jumped in. We put the link in for the fantasy survivor pool. I think Alec was already in. If I redo this, I still got 7. Nope, got 8. Alec might have just got in. Good. That'll give us 8. Be nice to get to 10 or so. Have some fun with us. King of the Hill. Thank you for that, Alec. That'll be fun. Steelers with the upset. I like the Steelers today. A lot, actually. I'm not sure what that one's for. Commanders need to dominate this game. Look, it's all about winning. What do you need to dominate for? This isn't college where you need to run up scores to impress people. All you need is victory, wins. That's it. So unless I'm betting the game, I don't care what the score is, and I won't be betting this game. I can tell you right now. I'll give you my 3 bets before we leave here. Chargers. I like the Chargers today. Good morning to John Gonzalez. Good morning, Carlos, too, the Mad New Yorker. John from the Sports Authority, as I mentioned you guys every week. Get in there and join this group. It's a great mix of contemporary content and a lot of nostalgia. If you're old like me, you really enjoy some of the stuff John and some of the other people put up. And he's kind enough to let guys like me share their show on his group. And it's a great group. A lot of good shows on there. And John is a good friend of the show. John likes Seattle as well. Seattle might be one of my bets today. I'll give you my bets before we're done. Chargers defense going to have to show up. Agreed. They got a good defense. So this team is loaded with talent on both sides of the football. To me, knuckleheaded coaching has been their biggest issue the last 2 years. Kellen Moore and good call there, Drew. Kellen Moore may solve that, assuming Staley doesn't override some of his play calling. Or again, Staley's not a bad coach. His game management at the end of games has been very questionable. Some of his 4th down decisions are questionable. We might even see Mike Williams in the slot. I got Mike Williams on a couple of my teams. New England, all right, attaboy, John. I haven't got there myself. Of course, I want them to be there. I think they lose the game. I think they're very competitive today. But this is not out of the question. Rams owner forgot about this season, you know, right? So this is going to be one of my picks today, by the way. I'll give you my bets right now before I go to the rest of these comments. I'm going to give you my bets. I'm definitely on Seahawks later. There'll be 3 bets. I got 3 bets left in the cigar box. By the way, so far in the season, 4-2 last week in just college. Yesterday I was 2 out of 3. Lost on Tulane, 1 on the over on Alabama and Texas, and 1 on Washington State dogs at home. So, and you know, I like home dogs. So I'm taking the Seahawks today. It'll be a bet for sure. There's maybe. Don't feel safe with that. All right. So here's the bets for today. You're going to love one of these, Carlos. Seahawks, Giants, and Broncos. How about that? Going to be my bets today. Dallas. You're a Giant fan, no? 3.5 at home. Love that. Jets. Again, another game I said, how can the Jets possibly be underdogs at home? You'll be at both games. John works at the Meadowlands, for those of you who don't know. I'm not sure exactly what John does there, but I'm sure I know he loves his job. And he'll be at both the Giants and the Jets game. So that's tonight and tomorrow night. Busy time for Mr. John Gonzalez. Enjoy those games, John. You YouTubed all day yesterday. It was sad because Alabama stunk it up. So you were able to get the free YouTube like I was talking about yesterday? I had some trouble. I was trying to watch Tulane because I was having trouble getting some stuff outside. It's hard with like I said, I got my stepson's YouTube login so I could get ESPN Live, but I got to go through all kinds of machinations to get it, change my TV provider so I can get what I want. But anyway, you can get these games on YouTube for free if you just want to, if you don't mind every now and again having to go look for a new feed, you'll find it. Jets beat Buffalo at home last year with a third-string quarterback. Great call, John. This is a better team. The Jets right now are the best team in the AFC East. John, don't know if you saw my predictions here last week or on the AFC East show on Let's Talk Sports the other night, but I did pick your Jets, if they're your Jets, to go to the Super Bowl and lose to Seattle. I'm not a homer. I wonder if Rodgers' contract depended on him. What are you talking about? I wonder if Rodgers' contract depended on him at preseason. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not really sure what that means. San Francisco. I like Pittsburgh at home in this game, but listen, the 49ers, Brock Purdy's supposedly healthy. So this will be an interesting game. I expect Pickett to be much better this year. I think the Steelers will be in play in that AFC North, and I think a big part of it will be Pickett. I like Chicago. I did pick Chicago to win that division as well. I'm not sure if any of the teams behind them will make the playoffs. I do believe I took the Vikings. I don't have my picks in front of me right now. Or do I? Yeah, I do. I do have the Vikings making the playoffs. But I have the Bears winning that division. Washington, I do like Washington today, too. He's going to bear Sam Howell's situation will bear watching. Eric Bieniemy, a story that has kind of slipped under the radar, finally gets out of the shadow of Andy Reid, and he'll be the main play caller. He'll be the man on the offensive side of the football in Washington. It's going to be very interesting to see if he can carry over that success, and we can find out how much of that success in Kansas City was Eric Bieniemy and how much wasn't. If Eric Bieniemy can really have an influence on this offense and Sam Howell, you're going to have a real 4-team race in the East. Not predicting that this year. I've done it. I fell into that trap with the team formerly known as the Redskins before. You think you're in twice? Well, pick twice. And I think I made it so you can only enter once, though, Kenny. Well, you might have used a different email or something. Whatever. If you want to make it fair, Kenny, just pick the same team with both picks. So you don't have two chances to win when the rest of us have one. Pick the same team with both picks. Fair enough? I like Atlanta today. We're going to get to some baseball here in a second as soon as we get through these comments. New Orleans. And I want to know, but as I get through the rest of these comments, here's some comments you can put up right now. Who is the quarter? I got 14 quarterbacks in starting since last year. Which one will have the most impact? I will tell you, it'll be Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers with the Jets, Pickett with the Steelers, didn't start in the beginning last year. Watson with Cleveland, Stroud with Houston, Richardson with Atlanta, Jimmy G with the Raiders, Sam Howell with Washington, a team formerly known as the Redskins, Jordan Love with Green Bay, Bryce Young with Carolina, Mayfield with the Bucks, Ritter with Atlanta, Carr with the it's amazing how many new quarterbacks are starting this year. Purdy, Carr's with New Orleans, by the way. Purdy with San Francisco, and whoever the Cards play. Again, Kyler Murray's the quarterback, so I really shouldn't even include them. My pick is Aaron Rodgers, and after that, it's going to be Pickett. That's a lot of Italian sausage at the Meadowlands. I say it's probably a big sloppy mess. Cincinnati, we like. Tailgating, gotcha. Baltimore, we like. Panthers. I'm not giving you my pick in the survivor pool. You're going to have to wait to see that until the game starts. Denver. I like Denver. I'm going to bet Denver today, as I said. The kids to focus on the Jets is Will McDonald. Great player. Another great player. Listen, the Jets are loaded on both sides of the football. Their offensive line is the only weakness in this team that I can see. And it could be a strength if they stay healthy. Guys don't pout because they're not playing the position they want to play. This defense is just a monster. The offense doesn't even have to be great. Just needs to be good. And it's got the potential to be great. And I don't want that. Again, this is me not being a homer. I want it to be a train wreck over there. I don't expect it to be. Tell me what you want. He's always got some kind of reference. I know what Alan's talking about. It's a song. I don't think I know Zebra. I did have Kansas City with the points on Thursday. They'll bounce back big. As I said earlier, John, if you didn't miss it, this isn't a big loss. This is a bigger win for Detroit than it is a loss for Kansas City. The non-conference game, it's not going to matter. Aaron Rodgers has the most impact. Carr will also have an impact. I'm not a big Carr fan. He'll play good in the regular season. He'll probably put up some decent numbers with the Saints, but he always puts up decent numbers. But, in big moments, he's one of those guys that just is not a guy I want out there. Kenny, Jordan Love? Possibly. No, it's single elimination, Kenny. You lose and you're out. And you can only take the same team once. Becton has looked good so far at right tackle, and I see Littman taking over at center at some point. Agreed. I think the offensive line is better than what people think it is. And again, you know what? Everybody's got offensive line issues in that AFC East. Everybody. A lot of teams in football have issues. And if you have injuries, depth is a problem. So we'll move on to the major leagues. If you have some football stuff, you can still post it, but I want to move on and get to some Major League Baseball. Don't want to leave Drew out of the conversation any longer. Drew is our baseball guru here. As we get winding down, we get into the playoffs. We're going to have Drew on a lot more on Fridays on the Major League Baseball update as well. So Major League Baseball. How about Severino got hurt again? By the way, the Yankees lose again. 30-year, as I said, a 30-year streak of over 500 seasons, which is remarkable, by the way. It doesn't happen. I don't think it's happened in any other sport. Is on the line here. They're 70 and 72. Severino's done for the year. Big question there is, do we believe what we saw the last months of Severino and that he's back to where he was and they can count on him next year? I don't know. I really don't know. Yankees also had their Old Timers Day yesterday, which was basically honoring the 98 team in the core four. By the way, Bernie's got to be part of that. To me, it's a core five. I know Bernie was up before the rest of them, but I counted as per core five. So that was a nice ceremony. They go out and they stink it up and lose a game. 2 in a row they've lost. Orioles stay hot, as Drew mentioned at the top of the show. They've won 7 in a row. Let me get back to the standings here. Tampa Bay falling back to 4. The Orioles are in pretty good shape here in the division. The wild card is coming down, it looks like, to the Rays, the Jays, the Mariners and Rangers, or Astros. I mean, whoever doesn't win that division. Right now, Allen's Rangers are on the outside looking in, a game and a half out. They've lost a full game since we last talked about this on Friday. Red Sox have lost 4 in a row. They're on the cold side. I think their playoff chances are done. They're 2 games over 500. They've fallen back in a wild card race to 7 back. I think they're done. The Twins, 7.5 ahead of the Guardians now. The Guardians made some weird acquisitions on the waiver wire. Again, probably nothing. Cost them $3 million, I think. All these guys are done at the end of the year, and I think they were just making a push to see if maybe they could make something happen here the last few weeks of the season, and they've fallen backwards since they did it. Tigers, White Sox, Royals, getting ready to play golf. And what's turned into a great race, and now has come back to where I said it would be at the beginning of the season, a race between the Mariners and the Astros. The Rangers have fallen 3 games back. That's a lot on September 10th. Doesn't mean it can't happen. This team needs to right the ship. Every time, the last 3 weeks, they've got to be like 9 and 21. I don't think that's even possible. Let's say last month. The Mariners now have lost 2 in a row, though, only 4-6 in their last 10. It's the Astros who have taken control here. Seattle was in first place last week. Houston is the champion is a champion until you knock them off. Houston is, to me, is the best team in the American League. I said it before the season. I say it now. They'll be in the World Series, and Dusty Baker will get back-to-back championships, beating the Braves. Now the question becomes, can the Rangers save? Because here's the thing. We talk about this all the time. Perspective is an amazing thing. If you said to Ranger fans in March that on September 10th, you'd be, what are they? Where are you? 77. You'd be 13 games over 500 and a game and a half out of the playoff race. You'd be ecstatic. You would have been ecstatic. I don't think anybody can argue that. I'll get to your comments here in a second. Problem is now they played so good until the middle of August, beginning of August. Now they, petered away even the playoff spot for the moment, at least. And if they don't make the playoffs, they're going to think, it's a total disaster. So perspective is everything. Talked about it with Colorado, right? Expectations rise, and then when you finish where you should have, you're disappointed. You finish where you thought you'd be okay. You'd be very happy with a finish. Now you're upset. See, the same thing happened with the Rangers here. Let me get to a couple of see, Drew's got a bunch of comments in here. I got to find the right mouse. Baseball back to the Orioles. Pitching has turned around better. Oh, absolutely. You know what? They didn't make moves at the deadline we thought they'd make. They did pick up John Flaherty. But as Drew says here, these kids, guys we barely know anything about, Bradish, Rodriguez, Kyle Gibson, we know his name, have pitched well. And this team has got the second best record in baseball, and they won 7 in a row. They're chasing down the best record in baseball. Great job by the Orioles. It's possible Severino's done. I don't think they can go into another season counting on him. He pitched really well the last month till he got hurt. Pretty well. Much better. But, he was the worst pitcher in baseball for 4 months, 5 months. However many months it was. I think you're probably right. I think he's probably played his last game here. John agrees. Severino's a bust. He teases every year, though. Pitched so bad this year, and then he pitched so well, you start to think, can we really can we let him go? But the Yankees' problem is, I think you have to. His track record now is he's either hurt or he pitched horrendous. And the Yankees have a history of being afraid somebody will go somewhere and do very well. We were stuck with Gary Sanchez 3 seasons longer than we should have because they were afraid to trade him. They were afraid what he would do somewhere else. Well, he's shown he couldn't do anything anywhere else. And in my mind, I don't care if he goes and wins 20 games somewhere else. He's not going to do it here. That's the point. Somebody comment on my video feed, would you? Because as I'm watching me, I feel like I got a little of that Max Headroom thing going on. George Kirby mouse off after a bad outing, saying he's been overused, then apologizes. Well, some things you can't take back. You just called out your manager. And this is part of my problem. Again, this goes back to what I talk about with the pitchers and the way that they're babied throughout their careers. Then when you need to lean on them, and you're one of the most important people on that team, and George Kirby's a very important person in that team, in that rotation, I need you down the pennant race, and you're going to tell me you've been overused It's because the way you've been babied through your entire career to be programmed to pitch 90 to 100 pitches and sit out a start here and there. And this is the result. Guys don't expect to have to be out there when the team needs them. Or they get hurt because you babied them. Yankees need to be Dion. Did we talk about that a couple weeks ago? Put Dion at the in the GM position. Yes, Yankees need to be Dion because I think he's talking about the fact that Dion turned over 80% of the roster. Yankees need to build around Volpe and Dominguez and Peraza and maybe Wells behind the plate and obviously Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole. Clark Schmidt is part of that rotation next year for sure. But let's start trusting some of the kids. I'm okay if we struggle for a couple of years and it's exciting baseball. Don't be bad and boring. But do it the way the Orioles did it. Do it the way the Astros have done it. You fill the need with a few free agents where you need them. But start building around some of your kids. It's ironic that they honored the core four, and I'll say core five again, yet Bernie needs to be included in that. Much of that team was built around guys that were part of that organization their whole careers. And then they brought in pieces like Paul O'Neill and Tino Martinez and a few other guys. But the core of that team was homegrown. Reds can't catch a break. Lots of they did lose a lot of players in COVID. And I didn't see this. I heard about Marte getting hit in the face in the warm-up toss from Doug Cruz. Reds have had a tough week. They got themselves back into the race. Actually, I should have stayed where I was. They're now 2.5 games back, 2 games of the wild card. In the division, they are, and they're young, man. Again, this is another example that a team should not be disappointed. The fan base should not be disappointed if this team finishes 500 or a couple games over 500 and misses the playoffs. The core of this team is very good and very young. They're 7.5 games out of the division race, so they're done. The Marlins, they're a game and a half out. I think they were in by half a game when we talked on Friday. So it's the Phillies, the Diamondbacks, who are red hot. Again, winning 4 in a row. The Cubbies falling back. I've been waiting for it. 3 back. 3 losses in a row, rather. They, as we talked today, they are in the playoffs. Second choice. But you still got a pretty good race for that wild card. Phillies are probably set. Probably. You got the Marlins in play. You got the Cubs in play. You got the Reds in play. You got the Diamondbacks in play. You still got the Dodgers in play. The Dodgers are already in. The Giants in play. They've come back after going on a really bad streak and won a couple in a row, importantly. So you got some fun races. You got a really good divisional race in the AL West. You got maybe a race in the NL Central. And you got a 4-team race for 3 spots in the American League. And how many teams? We'll leave the Phillies in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 teams in play for 3 spots in the National League. That will lead to some exciting baseball in September. Not a big fan of the expanded playoffs, but at least those teams will have something to play for. Most of the players acquired in the trade deadline moves have been busts. That seems to be the case most years. I mean, every year you see a few that Cepeda worked, not Cepeda, Cespedes worked out well for the Mets when they got to the World Series. That worked more often. I think I would guess if we went back and analyzed all the trade deadline moves over the course of the last 40 years, at least half of them are busts. Just a gut feeling. And maybe it's from being a Yankee fan, seeing guys fail there. John Gonzalez and I are on the same page with a lot of stuff today. I had Houston before the season started. I have them today. And I've stuck by it as they – by the way, I talked about manager of the year in that Dave Roberts should win it for fun because of all the issues the Dodgers have had. I don't know who's pitching for them on a day-to-day basis. They could be calling me right now. My cell phone's upstairs. But what about the job Dusty Baker's done? They've had a ton of injuries, not to the extent maybe the Dodgers have had, but they've had to weather guys not having good years on offense and scratching out runs. That's the difference between the Astros. And it's been the difference between the Astros, by the way, and the Yankees. And maybe the Dodgers. And some other teams in the playoffs and during the regular season is they know how to scrap out runs when they aren't hitting home runs and they're scoring a ton of runs. They know how to win close games. They play good fundamental baseball. Most of the guys on that team know how to slide, Kenny. We don't want Giancarlo Stanton freaking teaching any sliding lessons, that's for sure. In a race that Drew and I have been excited about here since about May. I think it was May. The wonderful race for the worst record in baseball between the Royals and the A's. The Royals are actually ahead in this race now. Half game worse, but a game in the loss column. So maybe we have to look at this backwards, actually, now that I think about it. The A's have the advantage here because they have one less game played. Oh, God. I was really rooting for a 121 loss season from one of these teams. I thought the A's had it in them. I even thought they had it in them to go 1-20 or whatever they had to do when I talked about it about a week ago. KC and Oakland, that's a real race. Thank you, John. Drew and I have talked about it a lot on the Major League Baseball update on Fridays, and we've talked about it here on Sundays as well. It's been an interesting race. Couple things. I'll get. Looks like the Mets got a real good prospect for Verlander and Drew Gilbert. They like the guys they got. They like the Acuna kid a lot too. That they got. I think that was in the. Help me out here. I believe it was in the Scherzer trade. I think the Mets did very well for themselves at the trade deadline. And Verlander, by the way, is one guy who's not a bust. He's helped the Astros a lot, in my mind. Drew, Pete Alonso, 43 HRs, 103 RBIs, but 226. It's Schwarber-like, right? You could put Muncy in there, too. I mean, he doesn't have 40 home runs, but these three players are very much alike. I'm not sure if Alonso walks as much as Schwarber and Muncy. What are the OPSs for those three guys, Drew? The one stat I do like, a newer age stat, if you will. Dave Kingman numbers for sure. See, Dave Kingman would be a superstar today because we don't care about the strikeouts. We don't care about the batting average. All we care about is how much they walk, how much they homer. I'm not sure how much Kingman walk. Home runs, strikeouts are fine. He'd be a freaking $30 million ball player today. Maybe not. A surprise team like Milwaukee or Cincinnati making it to the World Series from the National League. I still have the Braves, John, but listen, I've been all over Milwaukee for about 3 years now because of that pitching and the fact that they had, I think, the best manager in baseball in Craig Counsell. And they've let me down. They've either not made the playoffs or they've gone out in the first round. But I think Cincinnati's got a better chance, or Milwaukee's got a better chance than Cincinnati here, obviously. Problem is, they don't hit enough. But they do know how to scratch out runs. Michael King does look legit for the Yankee staff. There's a lot of talk that he will be made a starter, full-time starter going forward, which is what he was when he started his career. The Yankees moved him to the bullpen. Yankees have tons of talent, just need to add new pieces and a few. Bellinger would probably be I'm not overpaying for this guy, though. Again, I can't forget the 3 seasons preceding this one. He's had a nice bounce back season. But he would be a good piece to add here. I'm not going to overpay for him, though. And I do think the Yankees have some good pieces with kids in play. What really hurt them, really hurts the Yankees. Harrison Bader would have been a perfect fit for this team if he could freaking stay healthy. Reds are only 2.5 back in a wild card. Yeah, I think I had that. They were in my wild card contender. Again, if this team doesn't make the playoffs, they're not a failure, though. Again, those expectations. You have to remember in September, you have to remember your expectations were back in March. Tampa's adjusting. Tampa always adjusts. You do a good job, but they're falling back in that race. They're going to be a wild card team. Orioles manager of the year in the American League. I agree. Here's a guy who was probably on the firing line high last year, early in the season. One of the most likely guys to get fired. They'd have some very bad seasons under him. And now he's probably going to be the American League manager of the year. Let's not forget about, actually, I talked about Dusty Baker, like using the National League. Had another flashback to previous years. The Astros are not in the National League anymore, obviously. Dusty might get consideration, though. I think he'd rather win another World Series, though, than win the manager of the year. I said this before. The Rays have done a good job of keeping their focus on the field with the injuries that they've had. I think 3 of their starting pitchers they lost for the season. All of them have been hurt at some point. The Wander Franco stuff that you talked about here. And again, a lot of talk that Wander Franco will never play in the major leagues again, which would be very sad. A talented young man. But, you got to be accountable for yourself off the field and your actions. It does look very bad for Franco. Alonso gets hit by pitch more than both. Ridiculous. Guys get hit. Part of the game. Boog Powell. Actually, Boog was better. Boog didn't just hit for power. Boog hit for some average a few years. He was the MVP of the American League in, I want to say, 70. Boog wasn't a 220 hitter. And Boog was a better than average fielder, too. Good reference, though, Kenny. Alonso, here's the OPSs I was looking for. So they're very close. And that's what guys look at. So their walk percentages. So Alonso does walk a ton, obviously. So, OPS is one stat that I do like because your slugging and your on-base percentage are very important numbers. The rest of the made-up stats, not so much. John saw Kingman play a lot. He once hit a ball out of Lincoln Stadium in Montreal. Hope the roof was open at that time. If he didn't, he was a surly guy, man. He played with the Yankees for about 5 minutes in 1977 or 8. I can't remember which World Series year it was. They tried to get him on the playoff roster and they couldn't. Anything else in baseball? I guess not. Stuff I have we can talk about later. The Steven Strasburg mess in Washington. If you don't want to pay guys, don't give them guaranteed contracts and then not take insurance on it. Jesus, how ridiculous, right? All right, well, we got to wrap it up today, guys. You guys have been phenomenal once again today. Absolutely phenomenal. Drew, John, Carlos, CA, Kenny. We missed Rick today. Rick might be traveling or on the beach already. Who else was with us today that I missed? I know I missed somebody. Tanner, Alec. Great to have all you guys with us. If I miss anybody, I apologize. I love this show because you guys drive it. When I can't read my own handwriting what I want to talk about, it doesn't matter because you guys got something to talk about. So I love doing this show on Sundays. We're going to miss a couple Sundays, or I'm going to figure out something while we're traveling at the end of the month, but I'll keep you guys abreast. Where'd my music go? It'll start up again. 1977. Thank you. I knew it was one of those years, John. I always got John or Drew to bail me out, but I'm not sure. So, guys, have a great Sunday. Enjoy week 1 of the football. Go Patriots. I will be rooting my team. Don't you worry. I did pick them to lose, but I'm not rooting for them to lose because I'd rather be wrong all the time. And any pick 'em league I'm in, I always pick them to win. But I don't want to just be a homer read. Guys, have a great weekend. Hope your team does well, unless I'm betting the other way. We'll talk to you next Sunday with the Steamer Consciousness. We'll see you sometime during the week with the football huddle. I don't know when it will be because of college football huddle, because of work obligations, but we'll fit it in somewhere. And then we'll see you Friday with Are You Serious, the Major League Baseball update. And hopefully with my good friend Dan Harris. Keep a good thought in your head for Dan with the Let's Talk New York Sports Show. Guys, have a great Sunday.